9. Teachable moment. Away from the isolation of Grayson Manor, in the center of an idyllic town, stands Shelbyville Elementary, a colonial red brick building that stretches for 2 blocks. Stained glass windows featured above the east and west exits. The kindergarten classes are taught on the basement level between the art and gym room. In one of those rooms is Mavriella sitting at her desk, learning about the color green. Along with other children, she's assigned to draw things that are green. Easy enough. Grass is green. Trees and bushes are green. She reaches for the lightest shade to start coloring when the lady in white manifests as a reflection on the door glass, waving at her to come out into the hallway. Mavry raises her hand and asks permission to go to the bathroom. On the 3rd floor, a 6th grade teacher, Kayla Norway, is writing math equations on the chalkboard when she senses something is off. She glances over at the classroom door, waiting for someone to enter. It doesn't budge. She chooses to ignore her gut feeling, but it grows stronger, telling her to be on the lookout. Mrs. Norway opens the door and looks down the empty hallway, seeing nothing out of the ordinary. Mavry stands in the bathroom stall, waiting for the lady in white. "I have to go back. Can't this wait until we get home?" A fog rolls under the door and up her skirt. It trickles out from her collar, letting her inhale the message through her nose. "I understand." Mrs. Norway finishes passing out a pop quiz when that same paranoia sinks in again. She gazes over at her students, noticing a little girl, almost half the size of everyone else, sitting in the back row, kicking her crisscross feet with a big beaming smile. The teacher approaches Mavriella. "I think you're in the wrong classroom, sweetie." "I know." "Okay." It was weird how calm the child was being, despite being lost. "Who's your teacher?" "Mr. Harka." "You've wandered pretty far. How about I walk you back to your class?" Mavry stands up and reaches for her hand. "Okay." "Everyone keep working. I'll be right back." Mavry and Mrs. Norway walk down the hall, with the lady in white following. The red-headed teacher is the one who stops and looks back. She and the lady in white come face to face, nose to nose. Mavry is curious if Mrs. Norway has any clue that the spirit is messing with her. "He's coming back for you." "What?" Mrs. Norway starts escorting her down the first set of stairs. "The man who took you when you were little." Mavry reminds her. Mrs. Norway stops on the landing and leans down. "I don't know what you're talking about, but you're too young for rumors." Mavry taps Mrs. Norway's temple and awakens a suppressed memory from her childhood. Running scared through a massive elaborate garden, a triple moon was painted with blood on her forehead, leaving drip marks. A husky shadow figure teleports in various flower beds, trying to close in on her. He finally gets a hold of her, wrapping his arms around her chest and squeezes, his face concealed by the shadows of the night. In a deep, croaky voice, he promised, "I'll come back for you." Mrs. Norway jumps away from Mavry, smacking her back against the hard wall, trembling, hyperventilating, from a trauma that her mind has been shielding her from. It was just a small glimpse, but enough to scare the bejesus out of her. Mavry smiles. "It was nice meeting you, Mrs. Norway. I can find my own way back now." "Mavry!" shouts Mr. Harka, coming up the stairs. "We've been looking for you all over." "I got lost." She deviously smiles back at Mrs. Norway. That little girl didn't wander into her classroom by accident. Mavry takes her teacher's hand and walks away, leaving Mrs. Norway to suffer a slow, festering hell, plagued by disorienting flashes all day. They interfere with her ability to focus on the lesson plan. At one point, she draws the triple moon Wiccan symbol across the board, confusing her students. Some even giggle at her blunder. Mavry hops on the school bus, knowing she's being watched by Mrs. Norway. It's like a game, and that poor teacher has been tagged. Mavry takes a seat and grins at the lady in white, who stands behind Mrs. Norway. They're linked to each other now. Mrs. Norway, just Kayla after school, ends her day at home by submerging her hands in hot soapy water. Bubbles foam around her wrists, scrubbing a sink full of dishes with a green scratch pad. There's a peaceful solace completing her work, feeding her family, and after dishes, bedtime. Maybe sneak in a few chapters of a trashy novel before turning off the lights. Her 9-year-old son, Tyler, comes running into the kitchen to hug her from behind. He squeezes her tight.
Night, Mom.
Night, baby. Mwah. Kayla listens to his footsteps, run out of the room, rush up the stairs to his bedroom, and close the door. She examines a cup to make sure that it's fully clean, when spotting Gregory Finn standing outside her small kitchen window, watching her. His terrifying glare under the dim moonlight is startlingly familiar. By the time the cup splashes into the dirty dishwater, he's gone. The front door opens and closes. Kayla leans against the kitchen cabinet, scared. Her dripping wet hands reaches for a knife, ready to do whatever it takes to protect her child upstairs.
Hi, hon.
Greets her husband just coming home from work.
Any leftovers?
No, I can make you something,
It's okay. I had a big lunch anyway.
Joe tells her as he takes off his coat to hang on the wall hook. He's too preoccupied to notice his wife is gripping a large knife like a serial killer. Kayla tosses it back into the utensil drawer. Maybe it was her husband who passed by the window, but the reflection of the kitchen and the lighting made him look like someone else. How was work? Joe bobs his head.
Same old.
What about that one guy? Has he decided to run off with the money yet? She laughs about me. My estate lawyer hugs his wife from behind, laying his chin on her shoulder.
Nothing official. I don't know what Laura was thinking putting all that responsibility on the black sheep.
Isn't it obvious? Revenge. I went to school with Haley Finn. That girl was a spoiled nightmare.
Still is.
He agrees. So do I. Thought she was better than everyone else. God, I hated her. It made me laugh when I heard that biker guy left her knocked up, and when you told me Laura screwed her over too. Karma's a bitch.
I'm almost afraid to ask. How was your day?
Weird. Kayla wants to tell him all about the Mavry incident, but she didn't quite understand it herself. The stories about her kidnapping had been vaguely mentioned by family members during get-togethers. She personally had no memory of the 5-day disappearance. No traumatizing effects that held her back from having a normal life. No answers if she ran away or was taken until today. Never mind. Joe kisses her.
See you upstairs.
Joe leaves his wife to finish the dishes and goes upstairs. Kayla drains the sink and takes another look outside. Same old view of the backyard. She shakes her hands dry and bumps her elbow against Gregory. Gregory waves his hand across her face and cites in Latin, Et ide lux. Kayla's throat closes and falls forward into his arms, choking. Her chest tightens as if someone heavy is sitting on her, bouncing on her rib cage. She tugs at his blazer, widening her mouth. begging for air of her frightened eyes. Gregory holds her convulsing body to prevent the schoolteacher from making any loud noises. I told you I would come back for you. It was him, the man in the garden. His creepy voice hasn't changed in 3 decades. More fragments of her memories are coming back. Not enough to know what he did to her then, or why he's killing her now. Just glimpses of how she escaped him the first time. None of that can help her during this sneak attack. Gregory's face blurs from the lack of oxygen and tears. A vision of a living gargoyle coming face to face with her as a child is the last thing she sees before she dies. He lays her gently on the floor and takes an odd moment to arrange her copper-highlighted hair around her face. Joe comes back down the stairs in boxers and a stretched white undershirt.
Hey, hon, have you seen my contact lens solution? I thought I had a brand new bottle in the nightstand, but...
Joe finds his wife alone on the kitchen floor. First, he pats her cheek.
Hon? Kayla, can you hear me?
No response. He checks her neck and wrist for a pulse. Nothing. His wife is gone. Joe loses his balance and knocks over a kitchen chair. It hits the ceramic tiles hard enough to leave a dent, loud enough to wake up Joe's emergency instincts. He pulls out his cell phone from the coat he had left hanging on the wall and calls 911. The operator directs him on how to perform CPR over the speaker. It wasn't working. Sir, just keep repeating the steps. An ambulance is on its way, the operator assures him. Joe second-guesses everything he does at this point. Were the chest compressions the right amount of pressure? Is he tilting her head too far back? Is he breathing enough air into Kayla's mouth to inflate her lungs? The operator's voice asking for progress updates every 3 seconds isn't helping his anxiety. He hears his son coming down the stairs.
Mom, what was that noise?
Joe can't let Tyler see his mother dead on the cold floor in the room where he eats his cereal. He runs like a football linebacker down the short hallway and scoops up his son. The sheer force tells Tyler that his father isn't trying to play a game, but hiding something in the kitchen from him. He's curious.
Which mom?
You need to stay here, or go back to your room.
Mom!
Tyler calls out to her, wanting to override his father's authority.
Stop! She's not going to answer you.
It didn't make sense why his mother would be hiding from him. There was no occasion coming up that would involve wrapping presents or secretly baking a surprise. Joe didn't know how to tell him. The kitchen appliances begin vibrating, reacting to the magic in the air. The fridge door pops open, shining a path to Kayla's body. The microwave turns itself on, counting down from 7 minutes. It starts a line of static electricity across the countertop, creating a perfect circle, and she is the star in the middle. Joe notices the kitchen getting brighter. He takes a step forward before the other lights in the household start flickering. Kayla's body levitates midway off the ground. Her long hair and lifeless limbs spread out. Tyler clings to his father by the front door, afraid of the earthquake noises. Joe fears whatever killed his wife is coming for them. A strong charge beams off the spinning blender and shocks her corpse. Kayla opens her pure white eyes and takes a deep breath. She then drops hard on the floor when the microwave dings. Joe opens the door to the paramedics. The flickering lights have ceased and all is quiet. He points towards the kitchen and follows them, not knowing what to expect when they get in there. Tyler sits on the stairs unaware of his mother's condition, but suspects it's bad. Not death bad, More like she cut off a finger or severely burned herself. Kayla is found laying on her side, alive and breathing with her normal hazel eyes. She sits up on her own, wobbly and disoriented. One EMT holds up his index finger and slowly slides it from right to left. "Follow my finger." The EMT directs her to focus on it. Her blurry vision prevents her from cooperating. "Do you know what today is?" She starts to slump over and he grabs her shoulders. "Can you tell me your name?" "Kayla." The EMT confirms her name by getting a nod from Joe. "Can you stand? Do you remember what happened? Do you know if you hit your head?" Her legs are weak and tingling from the electrical shock. Her knees don't feel like they can support her weight anymore. It takes both EMTs to hold her upright and set her on the stretcher. Straps are clicked across her chest and numb thighs. Joe shuts the fridge door, wondering how it got open. Kayla could hear the electrical currents flowing in the walls. The air felt different on her skin, causing the little hairs on her arms to stick up. And it also smells different. It's more pleasant than the metallic taste in her mouth. Even the scent of her lawn is intense. While being pushed on a stretcher to the ambulance, she has a desire to roll off and land on the fresh-cut grass. If only she could rip through the straps like a superhero. Gregory blends in with the worried neighbors to admire what he has awakened. The lights in the ambulance flicker to her presence. The EMTs are sure they're having battery issues. It's best to hurry and request a maintenance check later. They have no idea it's related to her.